Today I want to walk you through exactly how to summarize all of your data for a given thing, find the averages and the standard deviation and even the number of samples within it, all in about 5 minutes. And so I'm going to show you how to do this in Excel. So you don't need to know any programming language or anything like that to be able to do this effectively. In today's video, we're going to use two very powerful techniques within Excel. The first one is vlookups. And this is going to allow us to pull information from a different table. I'm going to show you exactly how we're going to use that in just a minute. And the second one is called pivot tables. So in here we have an ID column. This is how we've ID'd our sample. So these are just numbers anywhere between 100 and 400. And we have a separate sheet that actually tells us what this means. So if we go into our sheet 2, we can see that for ID 100, this is an experimental group sample and it's male. I know a lot of like animal science or biology, you have to group between male and female. So we basically have two different kind of experimental groups, the actual experimental group and then the sex of our sample. So what we want to do before we do any of this, if we want to get our averages for our control male, control female, things like that, we need to have within this table that experimental group. So we're going to insert two tables here, or we're going to insert two columns here, not tables. And so we're going to label one, this is going to be the experimental group, and our other one is going to be sex. So now what we want to do is pull the information from the other table. And a lot of people might go, okay, the smartest way to do this is just to sort all of these numbers and then pull in that information. When you're sorting, if you don't select all the right things, this can make this data no longer line up with the IDs. So what we're going to do is actually use vlookup. And so vlookup is going to look in the leftmost column of a given range, and then it's going to look for a specific input. Once it finds that input, it's going to return the value in a different column for that same row. So we're going to do it. What we're going to basically ask vlookup to do is look for ID 100 in this table and then give us the experimental or the value that's in the second column. So to do this, we're going to do enter vlookup. And then it's going to tell you what it's looking for here. So the first thing it's looking for is the lookup value. That's going to be what we're asking it to look for in the other table. The next thing it's looking for is the table array. So we're going to give it this. And the important thing here is whatever value you're looking up must be in the leftmost thing. And then it's going to look to the right of it. So we're going to give it this entire table. And then we can come back. So now it knows the table it's looking up, and now it needs the column. So because our experimental group was in the second column, we're going to put a 2, and then we're going to do false. So false just means that it will only return something when it finds exactly 100. So once we've done that, we can see that this now says experimental group here. And if we just drag this down, it's actually going to look for all of these things within this. Now we're going to do the exact same thing for sex, except for that's in the third column. So we're going to copy our formula. You don't just want to copy the box because that's actually going to move everything. And then in here, we're going to paste the formula, but we're going to put 3 instead. And now we get the sex for all our species. So now in this one column, we have the ID number, the group, the sex, and then the different characteristics that we actually want to get data on. So now we're going to very quickly summarize all of this data. So we're going to highlight all the columns that we want to get the summary data for. You're going to go to Insert, and then you're going to click Pivot Table. And so it's going to say this is the range that we want our data to come in, and we're going to tell it to put it in a new worksheet, and we're going to click OK. So now this brings up this setup. So this is going to be how we're going to build our pivot table. And so what we want to do is we want to first have our experimental group. We're going to add it as a row. So now it's going to have the controls and the experimentals. And then we're going to also add our sex as a row. So now it's going to have the control, female, male, experimental, female, male. So now that we have this set up, now we want to add in what we actually want to be analyzed. So we're going to add in body weight and we're going to pull it into values. This is automatically going to create some form of summary about it. So when we add it in, it says the sum. We don't really care about the sum. We actually want the average. So what we're going to do is click this little drop-down menu and go to value field settings. And we're going to click average and okay. So now we have the average of the body weight. Now let's drop the body weight down again. And now we're going to get the standard deviation. So we're going to go into the same thing again. And if you go down this menu, we're going to do the standard deviation. In this case, we're going to do a standard deviation and not standard deviation P, because this refers to it saying that we actually captured the entire population, which it's doubtful we actually did. So we're just going to do the standard deviation. And now we have the standard deviation. And then we're just going to do the same things for the height. Come in, change to average, drop height in again, come into value settings, change to standard deviation, and then finally do the body fat. It's always going to default to the sum, so you're going to have to come in and change these things. And then change the last one to standard deviation. Okay, so now we have all of these things and their standard deviations. So now we also want the count. So because we know that everything has a body weight, a height, and a body fat percentage, we're going to add in the count. So this is going to be the sum of ideas. And what we actually want it to be is the count. So now we can see the actual number we have in all of these. So if you ever click out of this, it'll take away that pivot table. And if you click back into it, it'll bring the pivot table back up. So now we can see that for a control female, they have an average body weight of 209 with a standard deviation of 58, an average height of 65 with a standard deviation of 8, and then an average body fat percentage of 34%. These were all these numbers were created by just a random number generator. If this isn't actually real, you'd probably actually see a lot more differences between these things. But you can see that just by a random number generator, we were able to get summations. And now there's this grand total here. You don't really need it if you're just trying to get this stuff, but this basically becomes your N. So now let's say we want to take this and paste it into a new thing so that you can actually start creating visualizations. So let's just copy all of this. So we're going to highlight it, copy it, add a new sheet, and then we're going to right click and say copy the values. And there you go. Now you have all of this information. So I'm going to replace this. That's the N. Basically, you have all of this information, the averages and the standard deviation of the body weight, height, and body fat percentage. And I probably did it in about 5 minutes. Again, I was explaining it through and not quite just doing it. You can see here, this is the control. So I might bold these just to make it clear what's going on. So, or you can sit here and actually go control female, control male, and all of these things. This should save you a lot of time if you're actually going through and trying to sort everything and then make these changes. So the other really nice thing about this is that this pivot table, it doesn't matter where things are sorted. So you could achieve this same thing by sorting this by experimental group, sex, and then calculating averages with actually giving a specific array here. But as soon as you sort this again, everything's going to get messed up outside of that. Whereas if I sorted all of this, so if I highlighted it and went into data sort, and let's say I sorted it by ID, if I go back into my pivot table, nothing's changed because it's actually using conditional logic to create these values versus just where the array is. So overall, that's how you can create a table like this super quickly and get all of this data together. I hope that this helps you moving your research forward. If you are getting ready to publish a paper and you're working on your data analysis portion, go ahead and download my scientific paper research checklist. It's going to help you learn how to create your story and then work through how to write your papers once you've finished your data analysis. I look forward to seeing you in the next video.